Hello. Hello, Leila, hello, Elisa, hello, Paula, hello, Fernanda. Good morning, hello from the future. Hello, Mai, hello, Kelly, Patricia, Andre, Alison, Lian. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you guys going today? Hello, Paula. Hello, Mindy. Hello. Yay. How are you guys today? Are you guys ready for our last lesson? Ooh, lesson number 7. We made it, guys. We made it. We made it through the English Confidence Week. Hello, Sam. Hello, Anouk. Hello. Who's here? Hello, Renato. Hello, Camila. Fernanda is saying freezing and wet in Tasmania. Wow, in Sydney for now, just freezing, but not wet today. But less freezing than Tasmania for sure. How's the temperature in Tasmania, Fernanda? Let me check today in Sydney. Not sure about the temperature. I think it's 10. Hello, Tiago. Temperature in Sydney. Okay, so it's 12 now, so it's warmer. Oh, it's 8 degrees in Tasmania. Yeah, today it's 12 here in Sydney at the moment, like 9 in the morning, but it feels like 9 degrees, so it's a little bit chilly. Hello, Ariane. Yes. All right. So today we're gonna, let me just pause the music. Okay, cool. So hello and welcome to our last lesson of the English Confidence Week. Today we're gonna talk about culture. So that's a very interesting topic. And the reason why I decided to finish the English Confidence Week talking about culture is because when we talk about English language is just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest. Like when we think about English is a tool that we're gonna learn how to use, and then with this tool we can do many other things, right? But when we talk about learning English, we are not just learning English, we're not just learning another language, but we are also learning another way of living. We are learning about other culture, other thoughts, other values, other beliefs as well. So when you think about English is actually one small part in the whole English life that we can have. So when we think about the reasons why we are learning English, for example, one of my main reasons for learning English is because I love connecting to people from different countries. So every time that I meet someone, I want to ask about their culture, about things they like to do, things they don't like, how are things differently in their country. So this is my reason, right? And when we talk about English culture, we're talking about the culture of people who actually live in countries where English is the first language. And they have some ways of thinking and ways of living that they are very different from people from other countries who speak other languages, okay? So this is the reason why I decided to finish the English Confidence Week talking about culture. And I already want to start recommending something for you guys to watch. So if you want to learn more about culture and the way our brain works in terms of culture and language, there is a TED Talk. I don't know if you guys know TED Talks, but I've mentioned that before here. I'll write it down. So there is a TED Talk. Let me just write it down here, TED Talk. And the name of this TED Talk is how the language shapes the way we think. So once we are learning a second language, we are not just learning another language, but inside our brain, we are changing the structure. We are changing the way we think about things. We are changing the way we communicate. We are changing the way we think about other things. And that's the reason why a lot of people, sometimes they learn English in their home country, but they just start opening their minds for another culture, for the real life English life, when they go to another country and they actually live the culture. And this is why exchange programs are so efficient in the English process learning, because you are learning not only the language, but you are learning the whole culture. Okay, so once you understand a little bit more of the culture, once you understand a little bit more about the way they think and the way they do things like native speakers, it gets easier for you to communicate with them. Not only because you speak the same language here and here, but because you speak the same language here. And if you understand the culture, even though your English is not really good yet, you can still communicate with them, okay? So that's the reason why we're gonna talk about English culture today. Disclaim, I am gonna talk about English culture, not in terms of customs, like not in terms of daily situations. For example, as a Brazilian, I love hugs, right? So that's like something about Aline. Aline loves hugs. And I'm really touchy. So when I went to Canada, of course, like people don't touch and they don't hug, and they have different ways of like talking to people, right? But that's not the main point that I want to mention. The main point that I want to mention is that all the topics that I chose to talk about today, they are topics related to culture, but focused on communication, okay? So of course, I can talk, for example, about cooking. I can talk, for example, about showers. I can talk, for example, about many other things. But my focus here is talk about English culture related to communication, because this is what's gonna help you with your English confidence. Cool. So before I start, I want to know if you guys have any specific questions about English culture, if you have anything in mind, and then I can get it started. So what I'm going to talk to you guys today related to English culture, it's of course, it's based on what I lived, okay? What I lived before and what I'm living today in Australia. So I'm going to talk mostly about English culture compared to Brazilian culture, because this is my culture. So it's, of course, it's easier for me to compare. And I'm not comparing in terms of saying which one is better, like if this is better or the other one, it's like worse. That's not my idea. My idea is to compare in terms of showing you guys the differences and showing that everyone's kind of different, okay? So I'm not saying like this is better, this is not good, or this is whatever. The idea is really to compare so you can open your minds and you can start seeing English in a different way, not only about the language, about the grammar, but about the life, okay, about the English life itself. And of course, for me, it's easier to compare with the Brazilian culture just because it's where I am from, it's where I grew up. But I'm gonna compare with American culture, United States, because I've been there. I'm gonna compare with Canadian culture because I lived there for 2 years, so I'm pretty sure I can compare a little bit more of the Canadian culture. I'm gonna compare with English culture because I have some experience with English culture. I have some English friends as well. And I'm gonna compare with Australian culture because I'm living in Australia, okay? So if you ask me, for example, about Scottish culture. Like, I don't know anything about Scotland, right? I don't have Scottish friends. I've never been in Scotland before. So I'm gonna talk about English culture related to my experience, okay? And then I wanna share some interesting facts with you. Also, some parts of the culture, they are different, even between native speakers. So if you get, for example, as I mentioned yesterday about my group of friends in Canada, if you get like one Australian or even like two Australians from different places, that was my case, one friend from Sydney, another friend from Melbourne, and then you get like a Canadian, you get like an English person, and then you put all of them together, they also have cultural differences, and they also get the cultural shock, okay? Even if they speak the same language, okay? So just keep that in mind, that if you have a cultural shock when you go for your first adventure or your first trip or your first exchange program, it's okay to feel this cultural shock, okay? Because that happens even between people who speak the same language. And then I'll give you an example. 3 years ago, I went to Europe. I was backpacking around Europe. I stayed there for a month. And then one of the countries that I had the opportunity to visit was Portugal. So I think I was just like seeing Portugal for the first time. I visited Lisbon and I went to Porto as well. And when I was there, I was like shocked. I was like, it's so similar, but it's so different at the same time. So I had this little like cultural shock in Portugal, even though I speak Portuguese, right? Even though I'm from Brazil, I know the colonization, Portuguese people, they discovered the country and blah, 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 blah. But what I want to say is, even though we speak the same language, I had this cultural shock. And then I was just talking to my friends in Porto, and they speak so fast. Sometimes I was just like so confused. I had to make some effort to understand their Portuguese, you know. And they have like different words, they have different accent, they have different slang. There are some words in Portugal that they have a good meaning, and they are actually bad words in Portuguese, in Brazilian Portuguese. And I was so shocked, you know. I was like, oh, okay. So even like that was a situation in my first language, I still have this cultural shock. Even if I think only about Brazil, which is like a huge country, if you go from one state to the other, like I'm from São Paulo, when I go to Northwest, when I go to the South region, I have this cultural shock, right? So I traveled a little bit around Brazil before, and then I had cultural shock, and that was inside my own country. So what I'm trying to say with that is that even if it was your first language, you would have a cultural shock. So imagine if it's not, right? So it's important to think about the situation with different eyes, and then see how much you can learn with that situation, right? So this is what we're gonna talk about today. So I want to start, let me check my notes because I always have my notes here. So when we talk about communication, so I would say one of the things that I was really impressed, I'm gonna say impressed, one of the things that made me really impressed when I first started to communicate in English with native speakers is that as a Brazilian, I like telling stories, as you guys can tell. Like, I like telling stories. I am kinesthetic, so I am a kinesthetic learner. So I learn better through real life examples. So when I have to say something to someone, when someone asks me something, I want to explain, right? And plus, I am a teacher. So I want to explain everything. I just feel like I have to explain myself all the time. And then when I when I moved to Canada, it was so hard because I was working in a tour agency in Toronto, and sometimes my boss just asked me something like, hey Aline, like what's the status for this activity or whatever, and then I started to explain the whole thing. And they get so anxious, like, because I get in English culture in general, they are much more straightforward. So they go to the point, like, what's the point? Like, sometimes they just want to know, like, yes or no. They don't want you to tell the whole story. And I just have this cultural idea that I just feel like I have to explain myself. And of course, sometimes it comes like from the background, sometimes it comes from the prior jobs that I used to do. And so just a little bit of background. In Brazil, I used to work with IT. So I used to work in consultancy companies, and I worked with IT for 5 years before I moved to Canada. So I was really used to this like consultancy environment, IT, like some crazy stuff, like super workaholic and like projects and like deadlines and like rushing all the time. So I just got that for me. Like, that was me all the time. So when I was in Canada, I that's one example. So I was trying to explain the whole situation before I got to the point, and they just get super anxious about it. So they are more like, okay, like, what are you trying to say? Like, oh, okay, yes or no, Aline? Yes or no, Aline? I got so many that, like, Aline, yes or no, yes or no. I think, like, just give me the answer, don't give me the explanation. And then sometimes we see this attitude as a rude thing. We just look like so rude. Like, I was telling my story, but like, it's not rude. So once you understand this is part of their culture, you stop getting things personal. Like, you're like, ah, so rude. Like, how rude he is, like, but not really. Like, it's just their way of communicating. So even if you see, like, between friends, they don't usually get that, like, telling stories. Of course, we have conversations, we tell stories when we are doing that in purpose. But when someone asks you a question, it's pretty much like just the answer, and that's it, like, as simple as it can get. So it's something very simple, and it's something that we really complicate. So if you feel like someone is being rude with you, maybe they are not. Of course, maybe they are being rude, right? Maybe they are, but maybe they are just being more straight to the point, just because this is part of their culture, and then maybe you're taking it a little bit more personal, right? So this is something that I really wanted to talk about, because it's something that I felt like straight away, and I'm always trying to be like super polite and all of that. And Canadians are famous for being super polite, right? So I was like, oh wow, like, are they being rude? And like, they are not actually being rude. They are just trying to get what they want, just trying to get the information. And this is true not only for speaking, not only for like verbal communication, but this is also true for emails. So if you are working in another language, um, be careful with your emails. Because I am the person, when I came to Australia, I worked 3 months in a school, and then I was doing like this IT system, and then I used to write emails. And oh, this is so funny. I used to write emails a lot, actually. So that's second point that I want to say. Be careful with your emails, okay? If you are working in English, first thing, in Brazil, I had this email culture. And today I see how unnecessary it is. Just because when I was working in Brazil, sometimes I used to go to people's desks to ask questions, and then like to get some explanation. And then the person just looked at me like, okay, can you send me an email? And I was like, but I am here, like, I am here. I am talking to you, like, in my head. Of course, I didn't say it. I was an analyst. I wanted to keep my job and my salary. I had to pay bills. So I didn't say it aloud, okay? It was just inside my head. So I was like, in my head, I was like, I am here talking to you. Like, why do I have to send you an email? Like, I have to go back to my desk. I have to write down the email, send it to you. You're going to read my email, whatever. Like, you'll have some free time. And I'm like, this is too complicated. So of course, it depends on the company, it depends on the industry, it depends on the area, it depends on people as well. So of course, I'm giving more like a general idea, just so you guys can understand the examples, okay? So I'm gonna exaggerate the examples a little bit. So when I was working here in Australia, I used to send emails. You know, like these status emails, because in my head, I was like, I need to formalize and just like formalize every single thing that I was doing. Again, trying to explain myself and formalizing, right? Like I thought I was doing the right thing. And then, okay, so two mistakes with emails. First mistake, you write a huge email telling the story. So that's similar to the first one, because we're trying to explain ourselves all the time. So we want to explain ourselves on the email as well. And sometimes the person doesn't want to know, they just want the answer. So that's the same mistake that we can make in verbal communication or written communication. Second mistake is like sending emails all the time when it's not necessary. So sometimes I just send some emails, and then when I look at my phone, the person is calling me and I'm like, interesting. And they just call, or they just come to your desk or whatever. It's simple, you know? So that's another difference. Like once you send emails, probably the person is gonna call you to discuss the email, because for them, and I agree with that, it's easier to talk on the phone. It's like easier and it's faster than send an email and then reply and then reply and then reply and then reply. Like how many days it's gonna take for you to decide the topic? While if you just get the phone and then you just call or you go to the person's desk, you can actually solve the problem. So that's another difference, right? So that's difference number one. Difference number two. Well, like guys, culture, I'm so fascinating about culture. Like every time I travel, I do my best to connect to locals and to talk to them and communicate, because I am fascinating. As you guys can tell, like I work with neuroscience, so I am fascinating on like watching people and like observing them and asking questions, you know, like I just love it. They went through. Yes, that's true, Leah. Yeah, so I disagree with this. Like, if we look back, I used to send so many useless emails, right? So that's something very cultural as well. And that guides me to cultural difference number three, which is talking on the phone. I personally don't like talking on the phone. And this is like, it doesn't matter the language. It's not because of English. I just don't like it. My phone is always on silence. Like it doesn't ring at all. Like if you call me and I have my phone on my desk, like close to me, and I see the screen, like the lights and someone is calling, I'll answer. But like if I'm not with my phone, it's not gonna ring. You know, like calling me, it's not really an option. I am the text message person. I know it's the most efficient way of doing things, but I am this person, okay? Not even audio messages. Like, I'll talk about it. So, when we talk about communication, cultural differences. So, first thing, I think that WhatsApp, it's a Brazilian thing. It's like no one else in the world uses WhatsApp. You know, I find WhatsApp so useful, and I have to teach my friends how to use WhatsApp. I'm like, how come you don't have WhatsApp? So that's the first thing. They do send text messages, but they actually send the text message, you know, like SMS. And I'm like, guys, what year are you living in? Like, this is 2020. Like, why are you not using WhatsApp? Why you're sending me text messages? So that's something very cultural. Like, they send SMS. Can you believe that it's like 2020 and people still send SMS? I'm like, guys, like that doesn't work. Like, let's use WhatsApp. So I think WhatsApp, I find WhatsApp such like a Brazilian thing. Sometimes they use for business, like WhatsApp business, not that common. Really, like in the tour agency that I used to work in Canada, they had WhatsApp because of the Brazilians, because Brazilians were like 80% of the market. And then they had to communicate with them. So that's why they had WhatsApp. And like, it's such a Brazilian thing. I don't know, like if you are watching this, if you're from another country, let me know if you use WhatsApp. So when I moved to Canada or even here in Australia, I'm like, how come people don't use WhatsApp? So that's the first thing. That's so cultural. So instead WhatsApp, they use SMS, which I find weird. And they use Facebook Messenger. I'm like, guys, like, why you're using Facebook Message for like talking to your friends? I use Facebook Messenger for business because I have my Facebook page, right? But like, I'm like, I don't get it. You know, like Facebook Messenger. They don't use Instagram as much. They actually like, they don't use social media as much. But I want to keep my first example and then I'll go for the social media. I'll take a note of it so I don't forget social media. Yeah, so they don't do that. What they do instead of text, and they don't like text messages, like because they don't think it's efficient, and they hate audio messages. Like, and this is such a Brazilian thing. Like, guys, why do you send audio messages? Seriously, like, why? I'm not a big fan of audio messages. I usually answer audio messages if it's super long, the topic, or if someone, like if a student send me audio messages and then I send audio messages back in respect, but like not my preference, because I get lost. I have to listen to it again. I can't follow the order. Like, you know, like when I finish the message, I already forgot the beginning. So I prefer to text while I'm listening. So I'm answering in parts the message and then I don't miss any topic. I'm very visual, right? I'm not auditory. So maybe for auditories that makes sense. But as a visual, I'm like bullet points. So I need to see what's written and I answer the messages in the same order and I use the reply option. So the person doesn't get lost in the conversation. That's very important. So they seem to like, I don't remember one friend, like one of my friends that it's from another country that likes audio messages. Like they just don't like, they don't get it, they don't understand, and they don't like it. So please, if you have like some gringo friends, stop sending audio messages to them, okay? That's important. Cool. So what they do instead, they call people. I'm like, guys, I don't like talking on the phone. Like, and they know that. I'm like, I'm not this person. Even in Portuguese, I don't like talking on the phone. So it's really hard to talk to me on the phone. I think I still prefer, not sure if I prefer audio messages or call. But what they do, they actually call people, like old school. Mm-hmm. And they actually call people like randomly, and they call friends like at any time. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling like calling my friend in Germany. And they just call it, you know? And I'm like, are you just calling like that? Like just get the phone and call? Like, yeah, like we haven't talked for a year. And I was like, and you just get your phone and call? I'm like, okay. So that's something that I was like, wow, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, people actually do phone calls, you know, and it's not just for work or business or whatever. So all my friends, they just call me, and they used to call me through Facebook Messenger. And I got really confused. Like, what's the point about Facebook Messenger, you know? So yeah, so all of my non-Brazilian friends, they usually call me or then they send me SMS. So that's something that I find super, super like cultural. And it's definitely something that has some influence on the communication, right? So today, for my friends that I know they prefer calling, I just call them. I just give up. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna solve this problem, right? And then that's something. Is the SMS text to have groups? I don't think so. They create groups on Facebook Messenger. That's another thing, social media. So now I'm losing my numbers. Like I'm giving so many extra examples that I'll just keep doing. Okay. So like just have fun with me, stay with me, have fun with me, and I'll just keep my examples. So I don't know what number of example is this, but my next example is about the use of social media. I know social media is something very personal. I have some Brazilian friends that they don't like social media at all. But in general, okay, I'm saying like in general, and when I say in general, I'm saying like most of the situations that I've been, most of the moments that I've seen, in general, people from other countries like English culture, they don't really use social media as much. Okay? And except for work, of course. Like my teacher, he's Australian and he uses a lot of social media because I'm studying digital marketing. So he has an online business, he has like his website, social media, Instagram, Facebook, everything, because he works with that, right? But in general, like my friends, I don't really see them on their phones. So this is something that I love. And I feel like when I'm hanging out with my Brazilian friends, we tend to stay on our phones much more. That's the point. So if I'm like in a group with Brazilian friends, everyone is like taking photos, everyone's like recording videos and like getting stories for Instagram, like it's addictive. So everyone is on their phone like all the time, and I used to get a little bit annoyed, to be honest. And today, even though I work on Instagram, I really have to watch myself not to be that person. So it's just crazy, like it's really like if you see, like, even when they are recording their stories, everyone else in their story, they are with their phones as well. So I'm like, wow, like that's like, whoa, technology. So in general, my friends from different countries, they don't do that. They really like, they use their phones for calling, calling people, for work, for messaging sometimes. But in general, they are not like super all the time connected. And even like in terms of social media, my friends don't really care. Like they like to look, to spend some time there on Instagram, just seeing things, seeing people, whatever. But they have like 100 followers, like 90 followers. They just like have like some friends. They don't really post. They post like once in a year or something like that. They are very private with their lives. So they are really not as connected as us. So this is something that can annoy them a little bit. So if you are with them, they really value the time that you're spending together. So if you are always on your phone and you are always taking photos and you are always exposing them, that's going to be really annoying. And this is why I'm very careful, because I work with these. And as much as I want to show you guys what we're doing and what it looks like to live with them, to spend time with them, I don't want to expose them because I know they don't like. So I really respect their space. So for example, if you think about 2 weeks ago that I was in Byron Bay, I was there for like 10 days with my group of friends. I was not really like even working and recording stories because everyone else was working as well. And I know that that's not real, it's not what they like. So I always try to be very careful in terms of, okay, what's my limit, so how much I can actually show. And I keep asking them, like, is it okay if I do this? Or are you okay if I do that? So we always get like these agreements, but this is why they don't like to come here and like speak. They are super shy. They don't like public speaking. They are really like private. But I am more than happy, like as a friend, like as their friends. They already told me like, oh yeah, like you can just come and ask us questions, like English questions, cultural questions, like whatever. Like your students can just ask you can ask us, and then I'll just bring the answer, kind of. Because I really wanna make it separate, like, okay, these are my friends. It's not like part of the business. So they don't really have this crazy like use of social media, and they really know when to disconnect. So that's something that even when I am with them, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I have to post on Instagram. Like, oh, I have to work, like, oh, I work on Instagram. And that gets a little bit crazy. And when I am on my phone, because I'm actually working, it looks like I'm just on my phone, which is a little bit crazy, but I'm actually working. I'm like, hey guys, I work on my phone, like Instagram thing, like my students' courses and everything. So I keep telling them, I'm like, oh, sorry, like I'm just on my phone now because I'm doing this, but I'll finish in a second. Just in a matter of respect, you know. So that's something that I get from my friends in Canada. That's something that I get from my friends like from England, from Australia as well. So of course, it always depends on the person. I know that are like bloggers and influencers and all of this crazy stuff, but like that's what I feel with my friends, right? So of course it's like more like a thing, like a style thing. But that's something that really called my attention when I first saw, like, oh yeah, I really have to separate. And I really feel that when I'm in, like, when I'm with my Brazilian friends, I feel that. And then when I'm with my other friends, I feel it in a different way. And again, I'm not saying that is good or bad because I am the person that I have to be on my phone. I spend a lot of time on my phone, as I said, but I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just talking about the differences between the culture. Okay, cool. So let me read your comments. Here in Canada, they don't use too much Instagram or WhatsApp. Yeah, even Instagram, it's not as common. United States Instagram. Yeah, I think United States, everything is too much. It's like the food is oversized, you know, like the small cup in America, in United States, is the large size in Canada. So that just blew my mind. Like when I went to United States for the first time, I went to Chicago, and like the pizza is huge, the drinks are huge, you know, like everything feels oversized. And I'm like, okay. And in general, I didn't have very good experiences in the United States, so I'm not a big fan of the United States. Sorry, I prefer Canada, but I like California. When I went to California, California for me, it's not part of the United States. For me, California is like another country. Um, so yeah, just like preferences. I like friendly people in general. I like respectful people. And I don't find people in New York City, for example, and Chicago, I didn't have very good experiences. Okay, with customer service. I was, I don't know, I just think like Canada spoiled me so much. And then I couldn't handle it. I was like, no, this is too rude for me. Yeah, it is in California. California is the best place in the US. California. Yes, deep dish pizza. Exactly. It's like too much cheese. Social media. Yes. All right. Um, I answered this one already. Just checking the messages. Nachi saying because I talk a lot, I'm lazy to write a lot. And then Nachi, oh, that's something important. Like, oh, I'm lazy to write because I talk a lot. But in the talk a lot part, we go to the first topic again. We go back to the first example, which is we feel like we have to explain ourselves all the time. So if you talk a lot, I think the best option would be to watch yourself. Like, how can I summary my idea? How can I get to the point a little bit quicker? Because sometimes, seriously, sometimes I get like 10 minutes audio or like 5-10 minutes audio to say one thing. And then I get lost in the conversation, you know, and I'm like, okay, but what's the point? You know, so if you talk a lot, just watch yourself and make sure that you're not trying to explain and like go into 3 different directions before you say what you're trying to say. While if you are texting maybe like 1 or 2 messages, then solve your problem. Okay, so I think that's what they actually think about that. Snapchat, I have no idea about Snapchat. I know what it is. It's like the little ghost. I've never been to Snapchat, so I'm like, maybe I'm too old for that. American also Viber, it's like WhatsApp. Yeah, they use Viber. Koreans use another one that it's a yellow one. I'm not gonna remember now. Japanese use another version of like WhatsApp, which is like a blue one, and I've never seen that before. So it's like, yeah. Los Angeles native speakers, Angelina, California. Yeah, I've been to LA. I was, yeah, well, actually, when I was in California, I was speaking more Spanish than English. Not just saying yes, but I think this is more personal. Yes, for me, it's really hard to summarize. Just yeah, short and sweet. In Canada, they don't use WhatsApp. Yeah, that's right. Let me just check my, okay. Oh yeah, so when we talk about work as well, something that I want to say that it's cultural, that is that I find like English culture in terms of work, they are much more relaxed than Brazilians. And I'm comparing with Brazilians because I am Brazilian, so I can talk about it and I'm not gonna offend anyone. I feel like I'm super workaholic, and a lot of Brazilians are. And I feel like because there are so many people in Brazil, we're like over 200 million people, we are very competitive. So we are very competitive in terms of work. Like when I go for job interviews, it's like 20 people for one opportunity. So we really get like this competitive that we feel that we always need to improve. We always need to go harder. We always need to go higher. And we are always trying to prove that we are good enough for that job. So it's like if we get the job and then we have to keep trying to keep our jobs. So I really find this like super workaholic thing from Brazilians, and that means that we work really well as well, because like people in general, they really appreciate and they talk a lot of good stuff about Brazilians working, like, oh wow, they work really hard, the quality of the work is really good as well. We pay attention on details and all of that. So in general, people love hiring Brazilians because we work very well. Okay. So this is like something very like, I would say like pretty like cultural, because we have this feeling that we always need to keep our jobs and like the competition and all of that. And then when we think about English culture, I feel they are more relaxed in terms of work. So they of course they get the work done, but I feel they are more relaxed in terms of like working hours. If they finish like at 4 p.m., they really finish at 4 p.m., you know, and then they go home, they have some like they have their different lifestyle, they relax, they really disconnect from work. And of course, this is also like, it depends on the company, it depends on your industry, it depends on the person as well. But I really feel they can disconnect a little bit better. So it's like 4 p.m. on a Friday, no one is at the office, you know, like everyone is going to the beach. So it's more like in terms of, let me just, how do I report this person? Got it. Did it, I blocked. Yeah, so when we talk about that, in terms of cultural working environment, this is really something that I find different. So also when I was working in Canada or when I was working here in Australia, that's it. Like, you know, like everyone, they really value their time. Time is really precious for them. Like time is, and I got this myself, like after I moved to another country, I really got that. Like time is the most precious thing that I can get, right? Because I cannot get my time back. I can get money back, I can get anything else back, but I cannot get time back. So they really value their time. That's why they are very punctual. So they really value, they hate when people are late for stuff. Of course, like 5 minutes, something happened, whatever, whatever. But like they really value their time. They value the time they spend with people, and also they value their time at work. So when they are working, they are actually working. They are getting the job done. They usually are not really like procrastinating. Of course, there are some exceptions. But when it's like when it's time, when it's like 3 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m. Friday, they just like finish, you know, like finish, guys, like let's go to the beach, it's like it's summer, let's go surfing, let's get the kids at school, let's walk the dog in the park. And it's like it's life, let's have a life, you know. And this is something that I really have to learn with them, because sometimes I'm just working like until late, and I just stay in my house and just like working all the time. And I don't even go to the beach, which is like 3 houses away. So it's really something that I think I can learn a lot with them. And this is really something that I like about the Canadian cultures like that, the Australian cultures like that as well. So they don't go super crazy, you know, like about work. And I really like this more relaxing way of seeing things. So they really value people. They are much more like people oriented than task oriented. Of course, it depends on the country, it depends on the city. If you go like to big cities, maybe like consultancy companies, it will be very similar. But this is the cultural itself. Fine. So these are the things that I want to talk to you. And also, if you are working in English, not only have to think about the English culture itself, but also think about the organizational culture. So like regardless the English language, how is the culture in the company that you are working? Because that really varies, right? It's really different from one company to the other. So do some research, talk to people, ask people, leave the moment, you know, and then pay attention on the details, observe people, observe the way they talk, observe the way they react, observe the way they do their activities. And that's the best way of getting like references, right, in the workplace as well. Awesome. So this is the end of our English Confidence Week. And then I want to invite you guys, I want to leave an invitation for you. Next week on the 1st of July, which is like the beginning of the second half of the year, I'm going to start my new online course, which is the Professionalize. So Professionalize, it's not an English course. It's not like business English course, but it's a course for those who want to get more confidence to work in English. So we're going to talk about organizational culture. We are going to talk about how to write emails in English. We're going to talk about how to have more English confidence at work. We're going to talk about how to talk on the phone in English, you know, like nightmare, how to answer the phone, how to participate in meetings, how to take notes, how to do presentations. We're going to talk about public speaking in English. And we also have some bonus sessions about how to create your CV in English, your LinkedIn, how to go for job interviews in English. So it's really like Professionalize is a course for those who want to work in English and be confident with your English to get the best results. So I'm going to leave the link in my bio. If you want more information, I really want to invite you for that. And I want to say thank you one more time for this amazing week that we spent together, the English Confidence Week. And as a gift for you, that you guys stick until the end, so you watch all the 7 lessons, I want to give you a present. So I want to give you 40% off discount if you want to join the Professionalize course. So I'm gonna leave the code here, the code for the discount for all of you who are watching the last session. So the code is ECW40 from English Confidence Week and 40% off discount. So I really hope to see you guys there. And if I can help you with anything else, if you need help with your LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. If you need help to build your LinkedIn, I offer LinkedIn sessions as well as strategy sessions. If you need help with your CV in English, mainly if you are in Canada or Australia, because that's the market that I know the most. But if you need help to translate or to review your stuff, if you want to have classes, if you want to know more about pronunciation courses, IELTS courses, so I have like a bunch of things that I offer, and you just need to click on the link on my bio, and then I have all the other links there. And I really want to say thank you. Like, I had a lot of fun this week. I really hope the content helped you guys to see English with different eyes, because once you can turn this little key, you know, like, and stop seeing English as an obligation and start seeing English as part of who you are, and see English as a tool that's gonna help you to achieve other things, this is what's gonna make the difference in your process. So start enjoying the process, start being patient with yourself, with your process. And I really hope everything that we talked about during this week had helped you somehow. So let's keep in touch. Feel free to send me a message on private if you wanna have a chat. And I'll keep posting content. We'll keep have lives every week. And once I define the next topics, I'll bring it to you. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much again for being here. And I hope to chat to you soon. So bye-bye.